Hello once again and welcome to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people, discussing topical issues, and this week we're learning about a neighbor to the southwest.
Yeah, a prestigious neighbor to the southwest. We're going to learn about the USAO in Chickasha. It's a show, Mick, we've been trying to schedule for a while because they have an exciting story to tell, and I think a lot of Oklahomans will enjoy hearing it. And we've got two people on today that will tell us all about that fine institution.
USAO, today's topic on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
We didn't just wake up with this problem. Barrel by barrel, dollar by dollar, we've been exchanging American security for foreign oil. Enough. We're home to a 100-year supply of natural gas, and now we know its potential. Fuel, power, cleaner air. See how natural gas is making a difference at chk.com. Chesapeake, America's champion of natural gas.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
There's no waiting at the St. Anthony ER.
No waiting.
Announcing the end of ER waiting at St. Anthony Hospital. Go to saintsok.com and reserve your time online.
Why didn't we think of that?
And welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Today we're really excited to have two representatives from USAO and Chickasha come talk to us about that fine institution. Across the table to my right is Dr. John Feaver, the president of USAO. Dr. Feaver did his undergraduate, master's, and PhD work at the University of Oklahoma. In 1980, he joined the faculty at USAO and has been there ever since. In the year 2000, he was named president. Dr. Feaver, as you might imagine, is involved in many community activities, not the least of which is the Academy on State Goals and a lot of others. Welcome to The Verdict, Dr. Feaver.
Good to be here.
Glad to have you.
Mayor. Good to see you.
On my left is my partner, Molly Tolbert. Molly is is an attorney with the firm of Crowe Dunlevy. She did her undergraduate work at the University of Michigan, where she graduated with distinction. She did her law work at Yale University. She practiced law privately in the District of Columbia for a while, and then in 1996 moved to Oklahoma City and joined our firm, and she has been here practicing antitrust and commercial law quite well, I might add, since that time. We're sure glad you joined us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, I might add this a little bit, Nick, that Molly is a trustee.
Okay.
On is a regent, I guess it is.
She is. She's the vice chair.
Vice chair of the Regents of USAO.
Let's start with the most basic of questions, and this is one I happen to know the answer to, but in case our viewers don't. USAO stands for?
It stands for the University of Science and Arts of Oklahoma.
It's a little bit of an unusual name when you compare it with other schools.
Even a
in the
long
region.
name.
Yeah, it is a long name, yeah. So who named it? Do you know the history or the story behind that?
Mayor, what happened, the college was renamed. It was at the time called the Oklahoma College of Liberal Arts, and that was the name that was given after it went coeducational in 1965. previously known as the Oklahoma College for Women. But in a flurry of activity, primarily born of legislative action in 1974, there was a move to name all of the regional colleges, to name them universities. And we got thrown into that mix at the last minute and went from OCLA to USAO, University of Science and Arts of Oklahoma.
I see.
We're not really a university, to be very candid. We're a college.
Well, Molly, let me ask you, how long have you been involved with USAO, and how did that come about? Kind of tell us the process.
Well, I've been involved there as a regent for about 5 years now, and I got to know President Feaver through an organization called the Oklahoma Symposium, where for one weekend every year a group of Oklahomans get together and discuss sort of interesting topics affecting Oklahomans, topics of the day, political, educational, artistic. Got to know him through that, and then he approached me about whether I would be interested in serving as a regent for USAO.
And you said yes, and then what happened?
I did. Well, you know, I went down and I visited with President Feaver and visited the campus, and it was a really interesting opportunity. You know, when you join a school that's been around for 100 years or so, typically it's been sort of following its course and hasn't had any fundamental changes in its focus. And this was really a transformational time in USAO's history, where it was moving from being a traditional regional university to a state public liberal arts college. And it was such an exciting time to get involved and participate in that transformation. The number of professors has been going up, the number of resident students has been going up, the quality of the students has been going up. All as it completes this move to becoming the state's public liberal arts college.
Now, you came to Oklahoma from D.C. and the eastern part of the United States. Did you expect to find a kind of a jewel like this in western Oklahoma?
I didn't. You know, in the Northeast, typically a school of this mission and this size would be a private institution and incredibly expensive. And we have Amherst and Williams and Swarthmore and Bowdoin and things like that. And it had just, I had never seen a public liberal arts college. And it's such a wonderful idea to have, and I was so pleased to be involved in it, because it is a different kind of education, a different scale, a different focus. And for students who don't want to attend a big state university, it is something where traditionally they would have to go private in the Northeast to get that experience.
Well,
and so to have there be a public school here is just a wonderful opportunity.
Molly, explain more about what you mean about the liberal arts school and how that might differ from one of the other schools or smaller regional schools in the state of Oklahoma.
Well, I think the first thing you would notice if you visit it is one of the size, that it tends to be a smaller school. The students tend to live on campus, and so you've created more of a small community of learning than you would necessarily have at a bigger university where more students are living off campus. You have graduate students, so the age range is greater. At a liberal arts college, you tend to have, 18 to 23-year-olds who are living there on campus, engaged in sort of a common endeavor to broaden their minds with the liberal arts, sort of classical education.
Let's talk about enrollment. So.
Yeah, the marketplace. What's the marketplace like? How do you build your enrollment, and what's the trend?
That's an essential question, Mick. Here's kind of a roundabout way of answering that. 5 years ago, in the fall of 2005, the USAO Board of Regents agreed with the Oklahoma State Regents for Higher Education to implement what's called the Mission Enhancement Plan. And the design of that plan was to aggressively position USAO as a high-quality public residential liberal arts college that appealed to very bright and talented students by offering a rigorous academic but affordable option to the high cost of the private sector. And this was a student market that historically their parents, the students, had looked to the private sector to provide that kind of educational service, and most often out of state. And of course, when the recession then hit, it was a very timely positioning for the college. So that's the student market that we're really going after. And the youngsters that are coming, and they, my age, everybody's a youngster, but the youngsters that are coming there are about 40% of them are coming from the greater metropolitan Oklahoma City and Tulsa areas and out of state. And they're traditional age students. If you look at the student coming in this fall, their average ACT is 25, and if you look at the single ACT admission criteria, which is a basic 24, then the average ACT there is 27. So they're very bright kids. As Molly indicated, they're coming there to a curriculum, to the nature of the college. They're not coming to the college because of its location or it's because it's convenient.
Well, I understand that's the average. Is that the requirement? How did you get the average so high? Did you set your standards high, or are you just naturally attracting brighter students?
When we implemented the Mission Enhancement Plan 5 years ago, one of the essential tools was to raise the admission standard from the college being essentially an open admission institution up to the highest in the state. So our admission standard is the same as at the University of Oklahoma this fall.
Well, it's the highest in the state, is it not?
Same as OU's,
Yes.
which is the highest
Which
in the
is
state.
the highest.
Right.
So let me ask you, just in the time we have left in this segment, how large is your student body?
Student body total is around 1,400. About 1,000 of those are full-time, and half of those live on campus.
And of that, how many would be residents of Oklahoma as opposed to some other place?
I suspect about 88% of them, a little under 90% are Oklahoma residents. The rest are out of state.
One final question. You got that designation 5 years ago. We have a lot of wonderful colleges and universities in this state.
We do.
Did any other smaller school get the same kind of designation that you got?
No, sir.
You're the only one in the state.
It really is because of the century-old pedigree. As a women's college, it was the first college that was created by the first Oklahoma legislature, but it was given a liberal arts mission even at that time, which makes it one of the oldest public liberal arts colleges in the United States. Then when it went coeducational in 1965, it was specifically assigned that mission. So with that pedigree and that mission, and because we had attracted some national attention from U.S. News for several years, they said, let's do what's necessary in order to really position this college to take advantage of the pedigree, the mission, and the national attention.
John Feaver and Molly Tolbert are our guests on The Verdict today. We're talking about USAO. More coming up after this break.
I remember walking into the academy and seeing the Highway Patrol core values, the professionalism, the courage, the bravery, integrity. And I realized that those are some of the same qualities that I was taught by my grandmother that the Chickasaw Nation valued in their people. We had received calls of heavy, heavy rain. I mean, it was the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in my life. We had seen the white pickup truck with the two elderly people in it. There was no means of escape. And looking down at these people, you could see the terror in their eyes, and we knew we had to make a move, or these people would probably die. And I reached down and grabbed their arm to help pull them up. I remember thinking, these people are gonna live, this is gonna work out. I appreciate this citation, but that's what we do. That's what we're expected to do. I'm glad that I was able to carry on that tradition of bravery and courage under strife.
What's your idea of security? A good-paying, sustainable job, a solid economy, less dependence on foreign energy? We can achieve it with the help of one industry, American oil and natural gas. It creates energy, jobs, and a strong economic base we can rely on. New technologies open vast reserves that will supply our energy needs far into the future. Because security, by every definition, is worth protecting.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. We're learning more about USAO this morning. John, tell us about the recruitment. How do you get these highly talented students?
Well, actually, though it's a public college, we operate very much as private institutions have. There is an identification of students both across Oklahoma and nationally, and the lists now, Mick, are reaching 25,000 students, and that's what starts your funnel, and then you begin to communicate with these students what.
But the competition must be pretty fierce for that caliber of student.
It is fierce for that caliber of student, but as a public college, you're a more affordable option. And in these economic times, that has become a signal feature of making decisions on the part of students and families. But that funnels down through a series of communications to them, and eventually personal contacts, eventually bringing them to campus, eventually to enroll, and of course retention becomes just as important a feature as recruiting them there. And we don't want to bring them there and have a mismatch and then have them drop out after a year. And so with the increasing admission standards, because of the match of students to the kind of curriculum they're looking for, our retention rates have jumped from the 50% range into the low 70% range.
And by that you mean they stay 4 years?
They stay 4 years, that's right.
They don't change and go somewhere else? That's
astounding. If they do change, we hope they're transitioning to another college and not simply leaving the system. Yeah.
Well, and I think one of the things that's helped as well is the school has been significantly raising its academic profile among the parents of the students as well. Every year the school has a liberal arts symposium that brings in speakers of the caliber of Steven Pinker and Jared Diamond. And I know I've gone down to those, and a significant number of people my age from Oklahoma City will be down there at those, because they're speakers that to bring them to Oklahoma at all is really wonderful, and then to get them to Chickasha on campus is a real coup. And so I think that as more parents of college-age children and high school-age children see the school as a place that is providing intellectual opportunities like that, they're more and more anxious to promote the school to their children. And I think that's made a big difference as well.
Let's talk about the governance. What can you tell me about that?
Well, this is of distinctive interest, Mick. The USAO is the only four-year college with its own governing board. And it's been that way from the very outset. All of the four-year institutions operate under an umbrella board of some sort or another. But the composition of the board, I've got to give Governor Henry extraordinary credit for populating this board with the kind of people that it needs in order to achieve its statewide mission. As you've indicated, Molly is vice chair of the board this year. The chair is Leslie Hudson from Oklahoma City. The secretary is John Nelson, an attorney from Chickasha.
Classmate of mine.
Indeed,
as a matter of fact.
Indeed. The name is well known. You've got two regents from Tulsa, Hillary Kitts and Teresa Adwan, and the most recent appointment, David McLaughlin, who is co-founder of Advanced Foods. So it's a great board. They're all sensitive to the mission of the college. They're the kind of people that can really help advance what we're doing there.
Well, let me ask you, you recruit the brightest and best that you possibly can, and you keep them 4 years. You must be doing something to keep their intellectual interest challenged and satisfied and advanced. Talk about your curriculum a little bit and how you tailor it.
The curriculum is what I call a demand curriculum. There's not a choice. We have a core requirement that all students are required to take, and they're freshman level courses, sophomore, junior, and senior level courses, and they're required to go through this in sequence from freshman to senior year. And many of these courses are team taught by 2, 3, even 4 faculty. I mean, I say team taught, I don't mean turn teaching, I mean team teaching. They're in the classroom together, trying to bring history and political science together, or economics and philosophy together, and show these kids a relationship between the academic disciplines.
And what kind of degrees do you award?
Well, it's a college that is very limited in terms of what you would call career path. We do have a teacher preparation program, we have a computer science program, and we have what's called a Bachelor of Business Administration, which is very, very broad. Otherwise, all of the coursework are in the arts and the sciences.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the facilities on campus. And I know it takes a lot of fundraising to keep the building
It does, because the campus is a National Historic District.
Explain that.
Well, it was put on the National Register in 2001. There are 15 buildings on the National Register, and incidentally, Mayor, 7 of them are Solomon Layton buildings.
Is that right?
And he did a lot of building there. Those buildings were constructed between 1910 and 1956. And so, yes, the capital needs of the campus are considerable, but we have done a great deal in terms of preserving this National Historic District. And if you visit the campus, you'll see that there's a real architectural integrity there.
It is stunning, yes.
But I've got buildings that need help. And,
I bet.
And the state has provided some bond assistance, but we've done 3 or 4 buildings recently with private money that we're looking for.
Well, one of the great changes, I think, in the last couple of years, I can toot the president's horn here, is that they have brought back the president's house on campus, which had been empty for 10 years, 10 or 15 years, and now President Feaver and his family are living there on campus, which I think sends a wonderful message to the students about the desirability of that community and wanting to be a part of that. So it's been a great change, I think, for the school to have.
With private money.
With private money. The president's house brought back and the president living there with the students.
We've heard here in Oklahoma City and all over the state and presumably all over the nation about a very fine rating award USAO won very recently. Can you tell our viewers about that?
The U.S. News has given us a pretty solid rating now for a number of years, and that rating based on the particular category of college that we're ranked in, and it's called, they're called regional colleges, and they're mostly focused on undergraduate education with relatively limited programs. We're ranked number 1 in that category in a classification called Great Schools, Great Prices. And of the 1,500 schools that U.S. News surveys every year, they separate out 190 that they think provide special combination of high academic rating but reasonable cost. And there are 40 of these regional colleges in that 190, and we're ranked number 1 in that group in the western part of the country.
That's quite a feather in your cap.
It really is, and it is great for marketing and public relations.
What are the major challenges that you and your school face?
Well, to refer back to your comment about the physical plant, that's got to be one of the major challenges that we face. And look, the agreement between the USAO regions and the Oklahoma State Regions for Higher Education in aggressively pushing this college includes, on the state region's part, a willingness to put special money into the college to make sure this plan works and that it has a sustainability. But ultimately, state money has got to be matched and enriched with private money as well. And so that is going to be my major challenge to get out. We created a department or a vice presidency for advancement several years ago for the first time in the college's history, and we're doing pretty well. We get to bring in about $1.2 million on average for the past 7 years for scholarships and other kinds of capital needs.
John Feaver, Molly Tolbert, thank you both for coming on The Verdict.
Pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We
so
have
much.
learned much, and I know our viewers have as well. Thanks for the fine work you all are doing down there.
Great.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Our subject has been USAO, and John Feaver and Molly Tolbert have been our guests today on The Verdict. Kent and I will be back with a final word right after this.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. We learned a lot about USAO and Chickasha in today's segment. I got to tell you, I knew a little bit, but I had no idea that the standards for getting into the school and that their 4-year acceptance rate was so high. It's very impressive.
No, I was unaware of their special designation. That is really an educational diamond in the southwest Oklahoma rough.
Yeah.
That we didn't know about, but we know a lot more about it now.
I have visited the campus. The architecture is stunning and worth the trip to Chickasha just to kind of walk around the campus. It's a wonderful place and sounds like things are going well, and we certainly know it's in good hands. Both Molly and John exhibited that today. Got a couple of websites that we want to draw your attention to. First, if you'd like more information about today's show and the subject, usao.edu. usao.edu. That's the university's website. You can go there and get more information about John and Molly and what their goals and are accomplishing down in Chickasha. We also want to draw your attention to our website because we know that you've got an answer to the question that we have time and time, and that is, so who are we going to have on our next show?
That's right. We don't
You
know.
have an opportunity to tell us about a guest that you'd like to see on The Verdict, so just go to our website, theverdict.tv, and tell us about a guest or a topic you'd like to see discussed. That's going to do it for today's show. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We're going to see you next week right here on The Verdict. Look forward to seeing you then.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.